Hello, hello, hello. Hey guys, how are you? Nick Jansen, Holistic Health Anxiety Coach. Coach for Anxiety, welcome back. Hello, newbies. Hello, everyone. Hello, consistent listeners. Thank you for joining me on this podcast. I believe this podcast is 198 on the series, on the first session, on the first season. So today I've got my hands on a wonderful book, and it's called How to Do the Work, all right, by Dr. Nicole Pera. And I've been reading this book. It's been amazing. The holistic psychologist, and I love the word holistic. It's kind of saying that it's inclusive of all thoughts, of all science, of all like medicines, of all theories, of all modules or modalities, and trying to fix stress, anxiety. So, and today I had an idea, and I thought, yeah, let's read the chapter on which is just past trauma body. Just about it's not the trauma bonds. There's a chapter after trauma bonds on the book. Okay, so the chapter is chapter 10 of boundaries. So we're going to go into depth of what we think. By the way, I've got here with me Anne. Anne's going to be my guest speaker. And we, she came to my little studio. My studio is the car for today, so we're just in the car and we're just chit-chatting and. I invited her. She took the offer, and thank you, Anne, for joining me.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for your time.
Welcome. Hey, really cool. We just, we're really pounding through this unbelievable book here, and we'll be kind of running some of the chapters. But the topic is in boundary. What happens if we don't have boundaries in life? What actually happens to us?
It can be very confusing and very challenging. If there's no boundaries in our life, then we are the ones that will end up suffering in the end, because we're always helping and pleasing other people. But when we need the help and want to talk to someone, what do we do? What are your thoughts about that, Nick?
You know what? I acknowledge what you're saying there, and I think there's a loss of. You're absolutely right. There's a loss of energy if we don't. We all too busy pleasing people, right? And we forget to please ourselves. But if we don't have boundaries, we're not really valuing around life. We're not being authentic to ourselves. And this is what the first chapter, and this chapter here, not the first chapter, this chapter here, as we've read some of the content on Nicole's Repairer. So we're going into this. So what did you think of the first pages? First page. What was that story about? I think she mentioned by one of our past clients, her name's Susan, yeah? And what we found as we dig in deeper. What did you find about the first part of the chapter?
Well, the first part of the chapter talked about Susan, one of her clients that was from a middle-class family. Family was always important to her. She always did everything to please her mother and I presume her parents. And didn't mention how many siblings.
Can I just ask, why do you think she became a pleaser, Susan, in the book? We don't get enough detail on the chapter, but I know you can't do a full life story on one part of the chapter. But why would someone like Susan actually become a pleaser?
Interesting fact that you said, Nick. I think Susan became a pleaser because she was just used to being in that family bond and always helping people. Even though she might not have appreciated being controlled by her mother, she just thought it was the right thing to do. Like if the mother came to her, rang her up and she didn't ring her back, she'd feel bad. Yeah. If the mother read through her diaries sometimes, so she really didn't have much space or freedom.
What you're saying is she actually was struggling in life, and that's what she saw, and she's feeling unfulfilled, and lost, unfulfilled and lost, yeah. And she didn't know why she was feeling like that. So sorry, what were you saying? I just need to say that because I got that inspiration to cut in a little bit there.
No, that's fine. That's fine, Nick. I totally agree. So she was scared. She had a lot of traumas, and her mother would often be a bit overbearing and controlling. So this was something that she had about her relationship and childhood memories.
Yeah.
So she was always a pleaser. So if her mother would call her several times and she didn't pick up the phone, she would be made to feel guilty. Her mother would also come uninvited to her place.
Beautiful. You see this? We don't talk about in relationships. I think she, her her parents had a stable relationship. What is that stable? We all have stable relationships, right? But what does that actually mean? Does that mean that the mother was actually had a trait or patterns of, of being a controlling freak or some kind, or was she kind of trauma bonding her kids, and she took one particular kid called Susan, maybe? Was she like an overbearing mother? Therefore, the Susan might be dealing with something called the wounded mother wounds or something like that.
Possibly. It sounds like, I'm sure the mum loved and cared for Susan, but being a close knit family and the mother having a relatively stable relationship, she obviously might have been an overbearing mum, but just thought she was doing the right thing to please her child, and maybe, doesn't say how many children she had, but maybe she picked on Susan in some ways, or Susan was the one that was always the pleaser, that would do anything and didn't have boundaries, so she maybe
didn't have boundaries, right?
So then it goes into saying that her mother often came uninvited and would look at her diary.
Wait a minute, look at her diary?
Yeah.
Why would you allow your mother to go in there in the first place to look at your diary and not say anything about it? Like, what's going on there?
Because I think she was maybe scared and didn't want to overstep.
Right.
Or offend her mother.
Yeah.
Because she's used to always pleasing people.
But why does also, the book says, like, why would she have these patterns become, she took on the maternal role in life? What does that mean? Offering, why would she want to do that?
Interesting you say that, because I often wondered why she'd want to do that, like depending, the caretaker, or maybe she was doing what her mother did to her. But then it later goes on that she had friends that were overbearing, that would often drain her about and ring her at any time, and she'd pick up the phone and help them because she was a people pleaser.
So she was a doormat?
Yeah, she was definitely a doormat. So maybe that's where it's saying that she picked on the maternal level, because she was always acting as a sounding board and helping her friends. But the ironic thing is, when she needed help or assistance, there was probably no one to actually help her, or she didn't feel comfortable speaking to people.
Imagine being like emotionally dumped on all the time. Imagine you being on the other side and she was emotionally dumped on time, but she didn't even know her habit, but she had a habit of being dumped on. She accepted it,
She didn't really understand. She thought it was the right thing. And even though her friend would ring her in the night to vent about her problems, whether it be relationships, anything, Susan would answer the calls because she wanted to do the right thing, and she would have a sense of guilt and shame if she didn't help her friends.
Yeah.
She was always the good friend, the nice one, the good daughter.
Yeah.
But
I'm not getting the psychology. Why would someone be wanting to do that? What happens to them to do that when they just listen to someone's catastrophic? I mean, we have people like psychologists and to be dumping on, right? That's something we can all do, but some people just go to the next level and just go, oh yeah, she'll listen to me. I'll spit my shit out. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, some people are kind of kind, but that's like, that's just a lot of energy, that we lose, but when you're dumped on.
Absolutely. It's also, it can be used, I mean, in Susan's case, it could have been sometimes negative or wasted energy that ended up putting her maybe in the wrong mindset, because she was getting so involved and helping her friends that she actually forgot about helping herself.
So how come she got sucked in to feel like the guilt and shame? How did the mother made her feel guilt and shame?
I think that comes from stemming back from the childhood.
And imagine I'm a controlling, overbearing mother, right?
It'd be very hard, very difficult.
Very hard and difficult. And that kind of goes into like, oh yeah, I'm going to have to be the maternal, and I've got to be the caretaker attitude, right? And then anytime someone guilts you or shames you, which is normal, right? For people that do that, who want your attention. That's a hard life,
Very hard life. And the ironic thing is, when Susan needed help or people, she had no one to really turn to, so she had to go and get professional help.
Professional help, all right. That's kind of cool, like we can do that.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, a problem shared is a problem halved. And I encourage people to always come on to podcasts with me, We can be anywhere. I can be in Australia or Fiji or even in Bali. I can do this and talk to someone and record a podcast. And but you allow people to be acknowledged, right? So they can be heard, and that a problem said is a problem halved, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a very real, authentic topic, because this happens to a lot of people, and a lot of us can be caught in this space without really.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, how good was that second part, Anne, about enmeshment, right? That second part of that, it's not in the first chapter, right? And yeah, how good was that to discover some things about what is actually enmeshment mean, right? In my thoughts, without looking at the book or reading the definition of it, to me it means being involved in someone's energy and thoughts, and really dismissing ourselves from our true authenticity. Meaning that that's a pattern in our minds that we're just so used to being so nice that maybe because we need so much love that we are willing to surrender our authentic self to be with someone that is like totally so we get enmeshed. So we just totally enmeshed. So what do you think? We really learned a lot from that chapter. What do you see before I give up some nice nuggets of this particular, these paragraphs?
It was very powerful. Basically, a lot of Susan's beliefs and emotions stem from how she was brought up and her family, like her childhood experiences, how she had no boundaries manifests into similar difficult boundaries that have caught up with her in adulthood. She hasn't really had a say. She's put other people before herself. She's a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And she's actually, it's affected her own emotional and beings. What are your thoughts?
Well, I love it, but also to me what's coming up is the web of life. We can be caught with spiders, spiders and webs. And I think when we get so entrenched and enmeshed in someone else's trauma and dramas, right? It's normal. Just whoever you care for, you love will take you into an enmeshment. True? Love will make you go, well, I have to side with this person, therefore, and then I'm prepared to listen to the dramas and the dumpings, yeah?
Absolutely.
And not because you've got an open heart, so you tend to get, because that's just a pattern. Like someone, if you feel like you're a caretaker, all right? Like in Susan's case, anyone that's a caretaker and will totally lose themselves in the enmeshment.
Absolutely.
You'll be caught in that web. That web is there, you lose yourself into that web, into that other people's psyche. Our energy is that's where we lose our energy, so gain energy. So it's so easy who you care for, who you love, right?
Absolutely.
To be caught into this kind of web, in these emotions, and it's so easy. Like it's not, you get into it, and then you start to become an observer, and then you kind of think yourself, far out, I'm into this person's story, I'm on their side, I'm energizing on that, I'm caught in their web, my ego's having a great time. Yeah?
Absolutely. And then in Susan's case, she was always a people pleaser, so she was often helping and pleasing others and helping them with their problems, and maybe that in retrospect she forgot about her own problems as well.
Yeah. You know why? Because she lost the reasoning. I want to tell you something here, guys. There's something called, we lose our, especially if you're being controlled by your parents, or you don't know that already, if you don't see that pattern or you're not aware of it. There's something called executive functions in our brain. It's on the lymphic system. And if we don't have this executive function, which means total autonomy of your life or making your own reasons, you will not have that. Pleasing people usually do not have this power of developed executive functions in the brain. It's kind of it's a thought pattern. It's a mindset. But, none of us don't even know we actually got this executive function. That's what's missing with Susan here. She surrendered all her power. She was like under the web, like a spider, always eating it whenever she wanted to eat of the energy, right? I don't know, something like that. That's what I'm gathering. But I like the way, for me, how her mother had conditioned her. Because I think there's something else that said overbearing mother. What do you think now that we know more about from chapter? She mentions that, Dr. LePera mentions that about overbearing mothers a little bit. Not in that contextual, but she says overbearing mother. And what do you think, Anne?
Well, an overbearing mother can often have good intentions and mean things, but not actually realise what they're doing. So I think Susan got used to this, and she was scared if she didn't adhere to a mother or didn't attend family things, that she would miss out on things.
Oh, yeah, cool. All right, so so overbearing mothers have the control, right? Overbearing mother have the control because I know in the book it said a stable relationship with her husband, right? Either she has a natural control freak syndrome, or whatever you want to call it, controlling her kids, and then but that there's also creating that wound, inner child wound,
Absolutely.
Right? Mother inner child wound, which is one of the interesting things to have, which means you don't have the developed executive function in your brain because you don't even know you are defected, until you've got the defective cell or whatever you want to call it. It's a pattern that's defective. It's running your life, right?
Absolutely.
So when the mother is like that, it's causing open wounds, right? And it's she has no power. Susan has no power in the story here. But let's go back to the husband. Do you think that by reading more in depth in this part of the book of the chapter, do you think that she had a happy relationship with the father? And do you think she was just like carrying on a padding or like what do we call it? Something that's been passed down to her? Ancestral kind of poisoning or condition.
It doesn't say too much. It said that Susan's parents had an okay relationship. But it didn't say that it was a strong relationship. So maybe she took on the part where she had to have a stronger relationship with her children, and maybe this stems from her past as well.
Yeah, and how many, it doesn't show how many siblings she had, right?
No.
So it doesn't say how many siblings she had in there. I love where we can go with a story on this, yeah? Because we create a story,
absolutely.
But we're trying to put some psychology of our own into it, our own experiences, right? And that sort of stuff. So I'm going to make something up. I think she had a lot of siblings to look after, and then she was given the maternal role to look after her siblings.
Susan.
Yeah. And therefore she did not. Okay, that's one thing. And she said they had a unit family in that chapter, had a big unit of family. That means they had more than. We go into that, we find out there's more kids involved, yeah?
Definitely there was more than one. There might have been a few, and maybe Susan, without speculating, could have been one of the older ones.
So what about a mother? A mother had like a whole full control of it, right? Maybe she's like in the book it said normally someone who's got a mother that's overbearing kind of treats her child like her best friend, and you think, why didn't she have a husband to do that too? We're always probably never home, and we have something called the abandonment issue of family, just the struggles of life.
Maybe if
there financial, whatever,
if there was quite a lot of kids, who knows if the father was always working to provide and maybe forgot about his wife.
So his wife needed that, that
she
caring,
needed that support,
taking,
and
looking after kids, and that management of family. Yeah, wow, people lose their families. All right, I like where we went to, but Anne, did you get to the part where we went into the because again they're all there has no boundary. They talked about enmeshment, and the boundary of enmeshment, like when their family was, they had a lot of siblings by the looks of it, that when they were so enmeshed into each other, and when they separated, they felt what? Abandoned, fear.
But when they separated, they were scared that they were going to miss out on something.
Yeah, but they had this fear going on because they were so used to the
being
enmeshment.
the close unit family.
Yeah. When you started separating them, they started being out of control.
Yeah, and they might have created anxiety more stress, depression.
Right. I like that part of the book.
So do
no
I.
contact, and they had no contact with each other. Like, you could be such a unit, but the thing is, they had, because of that, I love the way that she says that they had no autonomy. No reason making, because it was so engrafted in themselves. It's like they had a different reality Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's all good.
So go in two ways. Maybe that's why the mother was so controlling and overbearing. Maybe she was missing out
Yeah.
in things from her husband, maybe her family life.
Yeah.
And the relationship she had with her parents, her siblings.
It's amazing when people lose themselves, in a cage. They lose not in a cage, but they get caged in doing some things that not of value to the family.
Absolutely.
Family unit needs to grow properly.
Sure.
And by allowing them to have a voice, a sound, and being respectful without trying to control the whole thing, and so these kids, family, her siblings of Susan, you can see that they had this enmeshment and casement,
Absolutely.
It's amazing, even though therefore had no boundaries,
Sure.
I like that. So, I like where this is going.
Absolutely.
It's went, Yeah, okay, so, folks, we're just about to finish up the this podcast. We've got a little bit more to go before we say goodbye, and with my guest here, Anne. It's been really a lot of fun, but we've got one more little bit of discussion to complete this session, and I think we're going to be talking about that particular part of the chapter which says Introduction to Boundaries. I'm going to learn a little bit more about boundaries here. We're going to be a little bit deeper, and so what did you think, Anne? What was the highlight of the ending of this particular section for you about boundaries and concepts?
It spoke more about how it's the past, the childhood, how it's harder to say no than yes.
Yeah.
And often if you say no, it's looked upon as maybe being selfish, carelessness, being rigid, having our own ideas. So Susan was a people pleaser, so she put herself before others.
Okay, hold that thought, because I want to also touch into, I think there was a couple of sentences that really hit home for me. It's common sense that if we are not serving ourselves emotionally and wasting energy on others, that is creating something called anxiety, and really going, we are all the way. If we have boundaries, I'm trying to say that if we have strong boundaries, then our anxiety will be less, because my theme's about anxiety, guys. So in the moment we have boundaries and we recognize, aware of our boundaries, we have a less stressed life, right? Which means that we're consistently protecting ourselves and we're safe, and we're also engaging our parasitic nervous system, right? Rather than living into the unrelaxed states, because sometimes the energy can drag you straight in there, right? Enmeshments, like earlier chapter. And what else did you get out of it?
Being a people pleaser, as I reiterated, it's harder to say no, but sometimes saying no or learning how to say no will help us in the long run. And when we get maybe used to it, saying no and looking after ourselves a bit and still pleasing others, then we'll have, as Nick said, we'll have a better balance. We'll have less anxiety, less stress, and it can lead us to be feeling a bit more in control.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for that. Sorry to interfere, but I've just had a news flash in my mind. I have to tell you, right? It just came up to about energy, by the way. We lose our energy. What happens when we lose our energy? We cannot be creative. I can't create podcasts like this if I'm feeling, anxious or depleted from my energy. So the more boundaries and more firm boundaries we have with ourselves and others, we tend to have more energy to create, be happier, more joyous,
And I'll reiterate on that as well, so be able to be happy, more joyous, help others, feed off others, feed off ourselves, and have a happier, meaningful existence, and have something to look forward to as well.
Yeah, totally. And also love the way the author said about we create this safety net for ourselves, right? Through boundaries. We feel safer, right? And did you catch that thing she said in the book that it regulates our autonomic nervous system? Do you know?
Automatic, nervous system. Absolutely. So basically, when we have these boundaries in place, our nervous system will be automatically in a better state of mind and awareness, and therefore we can lead a more fulfilled, balanced life.
Yeah. And also we have this something called a more authentic life too, authentic self. You get in touch, which is the essence of life when you feel your authenticity and you're not getting sucked into that energy. Cool?
Absolutely.
You're not getting caught in that web as much as often if you just create this awareness. So the more we learn to say no, right? The stronger we become, the more energy we have, the more creative energy we have, the more happy we are. But also, she quoted a doctor. What was his name? Dr.
Aziz, yeah.
Gazipura. Okay, so what did you think of that quote?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. As Nick said, the more we say no and learn how to say no, the more in the long run it's going to be a better and balanced life. And as Dr. Aziz said, it basically, if I please others, then others will like me and love me and show me approval towards everything. However, in the end, he referred to like the niceness cage. What did you think of the niceness cage?
Yeah, we can get really too much in the niceness cage. Gosh, to me that says that I need to be validated. I want to be loved. My parents didn't love me, and I'm going to be nice to you so you can love me, validate me, look at me, see me, hear me. All right, give me that love. I want it, and I'll do anything for it. I'm going to be your prisoner.
Absolutely.
All right, that's what it's saying to me, and that's the niceness cage. Yeah, I think we can be even too nice. So, guys, if you find yourself in this space and if you found this valuable, maybe this has resonated with you, stick around. I mean, that was just one of the chapters and of the book, and there's more things like we go into the definition of types of we got just a couple.
We go into we fall in with there's 3 categories where your boundaries can fall into. So one is rigid, loose, and flexible.
Yeah, so being flexible is a big difference with rigid, yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we will be explaining these further as well.
Oh, well, if we go on to part 2 of this, we can finish up the chapter. But no, this has been so valuable. Just to, I encourage anyone who gets the book. By the way, I do also have a Facebook page on particular, really honoring the works of Dr. Nicole Pera from How to Do the Work, and let's all learn together, heal together. Yeah.
Absolutely. She's a great author, and I thoroughly recommend you to all read and get in touch with your inner self.
Yeah, totally. Learning together. There was so much nugget shared today, and I just want to thank you for really showing up for this kind of work, mate. I really love that chat and reading this, but there's so much in just no wonder she's a bestseller, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not sure it's $32 Australian dollars. So get your book out there. Anyone that hears this podcast on Spotify, iHeart, anywhere, iTunes, right? Apple Podcasts. Get yourself this book and really do yourself a favor. You might even find yourself in there. So, having said that, and once thank you so much for participating in this podcast, and hopefully I'll have you back some other time.
Absolutely, I want to finish that chapter. I think it was gold, and I really thoroughly recommend everyone to get your hands on How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicola Lepera.
That's right.
And Nick, thank you very much for your time. I'm definitely going to continue the rest of that chapter, finish the podcast, and do many more.
We've only gone halfway. We'll learn so much, guys. And this has been part 1. Hopefully there'll be a part 2. And it's just a matter of time. And so I think I've had a great time. So I hope you've had a good time, good values, and wishing you all the best. Stay calm, stay relaxed. Yeah, just breathe in. May joy touch you and embrace you. Bye.
Namaste.
Bye. Namaste.